We're back with album review.
Yes, sir.
So we're doing one that I suggested this week. We're doing Pink Floyd's 14th album,
Yep.
The Division Bell. Yeah, this one came out in 1994, so most people know Pink Floyd for being big in the 70s and late 60s and a bit of the 80s, but this is their last real album, because after this would come 2014's The Endless River, which is just like scraps and leftovers from sessions from this album.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so this is also the second album without main member Roger Waters in the band, who did a lot of like writing and the singing for their biggest albums, like Dark Side of the Moon. He was very prominent on. Wish You Were Here. And then as time went on, he started taking more and more of the writing power and just like control of the band. So if you love Roger Waters' sound, these are some of the best years of Floyd. But if you're not a big fan of it, you could probably get annoyed by him. Because Animals came out, which, again, a lot of his influence. Then The Wall came out. Tons of Roger Waters' influence. A lot of the album was based off life experiences for him. And the band was kind of like, alright, why are you taking over so much? And then he said, fuck you, I am the band. So then there was 1983's The Final Cut, which was the last album with Waters on it. And that one was pretty much a Waters solo album. Hell, keyboardist Richard Wright wasn't even in the band at that point. They were just so fucking split up and done with his shit. I mean, this is an abridged version of the story.
Yeah.
So he would leave the band, do his solo career, and they would release an album in '87 called A Momentary Lapse of Reason, which is... It's okay. Personally, I think it's just fucking fly. I think it's just like a meh album. This is their second album without him, and I think this one fixes a lot of the issues that their first album without him had. And it's got all three of the other three members back in the band together. Not Roger Waters, but you got Nick Mason on drums again, Richard Wright on keyboard again, and David Gilmour himself doing the guitar and singing. So that's all the context I really have for this album, so we can just jump into it now.
Alright.
The opening track, Cluster 1, this one is just an instrumental track. It kind of sets the tone for how the album's going to sound, too.
Definitely. I think that this album it starts and ends very well. Like, it's capped on both ends, and they really get you in the right state of mind for the rest of the album, like, after this song.
I'd say so.
But yeah, it's, like, mainly just piano and guitar, like a slower track. But then, yeah, you get more.
But it picks up throughout the album, like especially the next track, What Do You Want From Me, when the guitars just sound so good. David Gilmour, definitely one of the best guitar players of his time. He's not one of the most technical, doesn't go fast and all the shreddy shit, but like, he's a lot slower. But it sounds good, especially this track.
This song sounded like classic Pink Floyd to me. Like, and I liked the singing a lot on this song too. I thought, was it Gilmour, I guess, on the
David
album?
Gilmour did the entire singing on the album, aside from like the girls who did the backing vocals.
Right. Yeah, I thought he sounded really good on that. What Do You Want From Me? That was good.
Poles Apart's another one of my favorite ones.
That one's good.
It's a lot more of a chiller one.
Very like spacey, like floating out kind of vibe.
Very floaty track, very nice to listen to. And then the other instrumental track, Marooned, another one of my personal favorites.
That one was really good.
I love the beginning where it sounds like it's about to be on like a deserted island, and then it just goes into the instrumentals.
Yep, and then the guitar, crazy. Like the really high pitched guitar sounds really good.
Yeah.
On that song.
For sure. And the next track, A Great Day for Freedom, which mentions like stuff about the Berlin Wall coming down in the beginning of the track. And then it just goes on into a bunch of other stuff throughout it, and I think it's another good one.
I like that one. I thought the guitar on that one sounded like exactly what you'd expect a newer version of Pink Floyd, like a 90s version of Pink Floyd to sound like, because it sounded like 90s guitars did at the time, 90s, late 80s
there's
guitars.
definitely like some tropes in this album, which some people aren't a fan of, like 80s tropes with the guitars and like some of the reverb that's throughout the album.
I remember there was a later track, but the drum definitely sounded like a 90s or late 80s
Yeah.
drum.
This was an issue that I have with their previous album before this one. It was just very 80s, like, overproduced bullshit. So this one is a lot different, but it still has some of that DNA left over in it.
Yeah, I liked it overall. I thought it worked. Because I haven't listened to much of Pink Floyd's newer stuff that would have been after Roger Waters.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a good first introduction for me to like how they kind of changed a little bit.
This is like the best thing to listen to post Waters era is this album.
But it definitely still gives you that same feel that listen to the classic like Pink Floyd albums gives you.
Mm-hmm. And the next track, Wearing the Inside Out, I like this one too. It's a nice chill one.
I like the saxophone on it.
Oh yeah,
That was really
the
cool.
saxophone work on this album is done very well.
Mhm.
It's credited in here, but I do not know the person's name. I could look at that real quick. But they did a really good job. Let's see. Where is it? This might take a minute, so let's just go to the next track.
Well, I was also gonna say on that one, I thought that the
go ahead.
the female backing vocals sounded really good on that song. for some
Yeah.
reason with it.
Here it is. Dick Perry did the tenor saxophone.
Okay.
So there's the man behind it all.
The next one's Take It Back.
Take It Back's another one of my favorite ones. I really like the sound of this one.
This one sounded very U2 Joshua Tree to me.
I could see
surprisingly,
that.
when I was listening to it, but I still really liked this song too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely another example of their sounding different.
Yeah.
Like more like late 80s, early 90s, like when it's coming out. It
Mhm.
definitely fits its time.
This one, yeah. It is one of my favorites, but it's probably my least favorite of the top tracks.
It was
for
one
me.
of the least, or less Pink Floyd sounding ones out of
Yeah.
the album. But it was still good.
I agree with that. And the next is Coming Back to Life. I like that one too. Like, all these tracks are pretty good, I'd say, for the most part.
Same, yeah. This was the one where I was saying the drum really gave me a 90s vibe because it was just like a big open snare with a lot of reverb. Just
Mhm.
like constantly. It was good though.
Yeah. And the next is Keep Talking. That's
Very interesting.
Yeah, this one is a very different track. It has like that robot voice in it.
I don't know if it's supposed to be Stephen Hawking or not.
I would have thought that when I first listened to
It
it, but
sounds like the way his voice comes out of whatever. he
yeah,
uses
this
to
is
talk.
probably my least favorite track.
Really.
Maybe. I don't know. It's hard to pick.
It's a very simple concept, just like
Yeah.
how human civilization advanced just at a much faster rate once like language was a thing and
Mhm.
like communication.
That plays a big part in it, and it really shows how we are today.
Yep.
In fact, this album cover, the two talking heads on it, from what I remember, I think that's supposed to symbolize the split between Waters and the rest of the band, and at least David Gilmour himself.
Huh.
Like the two heads that are just like, it looks like they're mad at each other on the cover.
Yeah.
So that's definitely where that inspiration came from.
And I don't know what the red flags between their mouths. Wait. There are no red flags on this cover.
Oh
On the
shit!
cover on Spotify, there's like 3 red flags between the mouths, like where that line
I
is.
think
right
that's
there.
supposed to represent the other members who were caught in the middle of the
Oh,
crossfire.
shit. I was gonna say it definitely seemed symbolic. Though.
Yeah. Well, it did not have. Pink Floyd was a 4-member group at that time before the split. They were a 3-man group in this album, but they originally had another member named Syd Barrett, but that's another story for another day, because he's in early Floyd stuff.
Yeah.
Then Lost for Words is next. I like this one.
I like the intro on this song a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and the singing specifically on that song I really thought was good too.
Yeah.
It's a lot more to the front of like the mix than I feel like it was on their older stuff. The vocals.
Yeah. The thing with like the vocals on here is that Gilmour's definitely a better singer than Waters, but he doesn't have the songwriting ability.
Yeah.
So like that's why a lot of those old Floyd albums are just so iconic, because Roger Waters just has a great way of writing.
Right. Yeah.
So again, once we talk about a really popular Floyd album, we'll get more into that, because there's not much to say about it on here, obviously.
Yeah.
Then there's the closing track, High Hopes.
Long one,
This is the longest track, like 8 minutes or so.
but I thought it was a great closer.
This is like a good swan song for Pink Floyd right here.
Yeah.
If this is the song they were to end it off on, I think it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, definitely. I loved the vocals on the chorus of the song. I thought
Mhm.
the chorus sounded really good, like a lot of emotion behind it.
This is probably my favorite track.
Yeah, this might be my favorite too off the album.
It's so damn good. And it sucks that this isn't the last Floyd album, because I think this would have been the best send-off for them possible.
Yeah. And I think the guitar also, like towards the end of High Hopes, was
Mhm.
fire. Really good guitar work.
Oh, yes. So let's go to final thoughts. I'll go real quick. Not one of the best Floyd albums by a long shot. There's just too many classics from the 70s that are better than this one.
Yeah.
And I like their first album, which is really psychedelic, because that was the big thing at the time when they first started. I like that one a little better than this too, but I like this album a lot more than I remember liking it too. Most of the tracks are good. Some of the production's kind of outdated for the time, and the songwriting abilities just aren't as strong without Roger Waters in the band, but it's a massive improvement from their previous album, and I think it holds up pretty well, and I recommend a lot of people check this one out, because I think this is a Floyd album that kind of goes under the radar for the average listener.
Yeah.
But if you're a Floyd fan, this is a really good one. Most people acknowledge it.
That pretty much described me, because I've listened to, like, 4 of their albums from when they're, like, their most popular time span.
Yeah.
So, the big ones, I know all of them, but I've never listened to anything past, like, The Wall, I guess, really.
They only had a couple albums after The Wall. This was one of their last albums, so...
But I definitely enjoyed it. It was a good listen, and it's still, like I said, hearing it for the first time, it gave me a lot of, like, reminders of what it was like listening to their late 60s, early 70s stuff, or late 70s stuff, too, but yeah, it's definitely got a different tone to it on a lot of it, different sounds, but I thought it worked really well.
Me too. Well, we'll go to scores then. I didn't really think of mine until right now, so I think I'm going to give it an 8.
Yeah.
8? Okay.
That's what I was going to say.
2 8s. Alright, that's really good. A lot of better albums. Quite a few better albums, though. It's, with Pink Floyd, like, they're personally one of my favorite bands of all time.
It's hard for them to beat themselves with how good their albums were.
I've listened to all their albums. This is not one of the best ones, too. And I'm still giving it an 8.
Yeah.
So, spoiler alert on the future episodes where I might go higher than an 8. Maybe, just maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
But
strong 8. Definitely.
Strong 8 for sure.
But, I guess since no one else is here, I'm picking the next
You're
album
going back
again.
to it, yeah. Since
So,
people have been off for the past few weeks, so
I'll
we're
pick
just
the album that I wanted to pick, like when I couldn't decide between this one and Random Access Memories. So it's going to be The Blueprint by Jay-Z.
Okay. That's dope.
Insane album.
Alright.
I'm very hyped for it.
Alright, tune in next week. We look at Jay-Z. It's our first one by him.